Hey everyone, this is Ravenclash, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at my Spider-Man cosplay based on Todd McFarlane's artwork. I'll be showing you guys the behind the scenes of making this suit, as well as my thoughts on the final cosplay. So let's get into it. I'm a fan of making suits based on different Spider-Man comic artists, so I made it a goal of mine to make each Spider-Man suit in chronological order based on every monumental artist to draw the webhead. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you would know my first Spider-Man cosplay based on any Spider-Man artist was Steve Ditko, the first person to ever draw Spider-Man. After that cosplay was finished, the next cosplay was based on John Romita Sr.'s artwork. He's the one who really redefined and gave the iconic look we associate Spider-Man with. So the obvious next artist to base the suit off would be Todd McFarlane. You might be thinking, there were other Spider-Man artists to draw the character before him, after Romita Sr. But you have to remember, I said monumental artist. You have to remember, at the time, most Spider-Man artists were really just mimicking Romita Sr.'s look of the character because it was that influential. So when Todd McFarlane came around, he really gave comic readers a drastic and fresh new look of the character. An example would be elements of the suit being crazy amount of webs on the suit, huge lenses on the mask, reintroducing web wings, red and navy blue color scheme, and new spider logos. This was a big contrast compared to Romita Sr.'s look with medium lenses, minimal web layout, and a lighter color scheme. Todd McFarlane's look for Spider-Man is one of my favorite ever for the character, so I was excited to make a suit based on his artwork. So the first thing I needed to do to plan this cosplay was get references. So the first thing I did to get my references was using Pinterest. I really recommend it for people who want to get good reference photos of a cosplayer they want to do or a character. And I found a ton of photos on there. But my second resource, which I got really lucky with, was using the comics from that run that McFarlane drew. And I got them from my dad. He collected the original run when they were coming out, and he passed them down to me to read, so I got lucky there. But if you don't have the original comics from where your character's from, Pinterest is definitely the way to go. So the way I made my pattern for this cosplay was, first of all, making a beta suit, which is basically a blank canvas morph suit that I wear to draw out the red and blue sections of the design. So after tracing everything by using washable marker, I disassemble the beta suit and cut out the areas where I drew the red and blue sections. I take that, the fabric pattern, I take that and I put it on paper. And after that, I trace everything and then I add seam allowance to the areas that don't have it. And that's basically how I make my own Spider-Man pattern. Maybe you can use this technique for your own cosplays.
Uncool! Do you know what these spider suits cost?
So the fabrics I wanted to use, I knew were going to be unique for this cosplay. I didn't want to use any traditional spandex that a lot of Spider-Man cosplays use. And the fabrics I chose for this cosplay was velvet spandex for both the red and blue sections. This fabric is comfortable, but the main reason why I picked it was because of its unique way with interacting with light. Depending on which way the fabric is oriented, light can affect its color density. So with my navy blue fabric, if I turn it upside down, it could become black in an instant. And so to me, I think that's the best way to replicate comic book cell shading, which is so prevalent in McFarlane's artwork, and I really wanted this to look like it just leapt off the pages of the comic. So here you can see my first failed attempt on this cosplay. To go over what went wrong was I didn't know how velvet worked with the stretch of it as well as how the light affected it. And as you can see in the photo, I didn't know what I was doing with the web layout. It was really difficult. I couldn't get it at the time. But I took some time away from it, and I actually worked on my Shocker cosplay right here. And that gave me the confidence to later go over how the web layout works and Velvet itself. So the Shocker suit was kind of like a test run to how I would make this suit. because it really let me understand and learn how the light affects this fabric. So here are the pieces cut and prepped to be sewn. And to go a little bit in the sewing, I used the Brothers sewing machine. I don't remember the number, but I used a number 21 stitch. And it's a really good stitch because it stretches, but at the same time complex enough where if you stretch it a ton, it won't snap, which is really nice to have in a suit like this. But I will say, sewing this suit with velvet spandex is very difficult because it slides more often than regular spandex. Here are all the pieces of the bodysuit laid out and ready to be sewn. And the photo on the right is the suit completely sewn, except for the sides, if you noticed. This is because that's where I'm going to be installing a U-shaped zipper, which is basically a zipper system that runs down from your armpit to your waist and then the middle of your back. This way of installing zippers in a suit originates from the Sam Raimi movie suits. It's one of my favorite zipper systems for a suit. It's easily accessible to get in and out of a suit, and it's hard to notice if you sew it correctly and use the right zipper, and it doesn't interfere with the back and doesn't leave like a seam down the middle, which I wanted to avoid for this costume. Before I install the zipper, I have to make web wings. It was pretty simple. I made a triangular template and then drew a grid web layout on it. That's the way McFarlane draws the webs. Then I used a light table and puffy painted both sides of the mesh material, the web layout. And then after that, I sewed stretchy elastic on the edges of the web wing so it doesn't fray or it doesn't curl in on itself. And then after that, I sewed the web wings alongside the zippers, and that was pretty much it. Here is what the suit looks like being worn after it being all sewn together and without any webs painted on yet. When I first put this suit on, I was just really excited. It felt really cool to finally have a velvet suit after seeing so many other people have one. But yeah, one thing I thought was funny that I noticed, I probably could have stopped here and just say I did a PS1 Spider-Man cosplay, because that's how similar, to me at least, the costume looks.
No, 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 no! Not a good time to run out of web.
So here you can see me slowly understanding how to do the McFarlane web layout. I'm still not fully understanding it, especially on the photo on the left, but on the photo on the right, I'm slowly getting there. As you can see, it's still a bit wonky and there's still not the right space between each web curve. And I wanted to make sure I nailed it with this suit. So here you can see I'm testing the web layout on a t-shirt of mine just by using chalk, and this is where I'm getting a better understanding of how to draw McFarlane's web layout. And you can see on the photo on the left, here's a sketch on how many I wanted to see on average on the chest, the belt, and the arm. And this is a piece of advice I took out of Godzilla Mendoza's video. He basically talks about how comic book artists are kind of inconsistent when drawing the character, and that's just because they have to get comics out the door quickly. But to take on average of how many are on the chest, on the back, or on the arm, or on the mask, that's a good way to get like the basic like look of that artist that you want to emulate. And that's what I did for this McFarlane suit. After studying the web layout, I did a general sketch with sidewalk chalk and then went over it with washable marker. A great tool if you want to draw webs on your suit temporarily, because if you mess up or you don't like how it's going, you can always just wash it afterwards. Just make sure you don't let the marker stay in the fabric for too long, since it can stain it a bit. If you notice, the way I did the McFarlane web layout was by adding subtle web breaks, which is where web lines stop on the suit so the web pattern on the costume does not start to look cluttered. All the movie Spider-Man suits utilize this design philosophy. I wanted the webs for this suit to really pop, so I used puffy paint and painted all the webs by hand. And if you know anything about puffy paint, you know how time consuming and easy it is to mess up the painting process. Yet, I managed to survive and get the raised web effect I was looking for, which I was really proud of. If I had drawn the webs with Sharpie, they would have been more subtle, which I wanted to avoid. I wanted to make sure if you saw this suit from afar, you could see all the webbing on the costume. Also, I just really like how the puffy paint shines under a spotlight. It's one of my favorite details about this suit, and I'm just glad I got to have that a part of my costume. We can't forget about the boots. So the way I made them was by first wrapping my foot with ceramic wrap and then putting duct tape on it. After that, I carefully cut out the duct tape cast so then I could make a pattern with it. And I just transferred it to paper so it had a clear outline. Then I put it onto fabric, and here's some photos of that. There's my dog laying on the fabric. She's very cute. But yeah, I gotta say, it's probably one of my favorite versions of a boot pattern. It's simplistic and really easy to sew. Once the boots have been sewn together, I need to install shoes inside so I'd be able to walk around in this cosplay. So let me show you what I did to achieve this. The materials I used were kung fu shoes, super glue or shoe glue, and then red shoe mat material. Putting together the shoes, I used another costume technique used from the Raimi films. That being slipping the kung fu shoe into the sock, and then from there pinning the shoe around the sole, then cutting a slit down the middle, and then gluing the edges of the bottom of the shoe with super glue. From there, I cut off the excess material. After that, I put shoe goo on the entirety of the sole of the kung fu shoe. And after that, I cut out the shoe mat material for bottom of soles into the shape I needed for the boot, and then attaching it to the bottom. From there, I would put pressure and leaving it to cure after that. Here's a quick comparison of how I used to do boots versus now. This is on my Romita suit. As you can see, the water shoe I use is actually on the outside, while the sock piece I wear is on the inside. As you can see, it doesn't really hold up as well, and the glue I used wasn't the best. It still works, but it could be better, and this is the new boot. Honestly, I think it looks better. It's less noticeable that there's a shoe installed, and I think it just works better for the cosplay. Here are the webbing sketches for the boot before I puffy painted everything. Fun fact, all the webs you see on there, there's not a single web break on that boot. So I don't know how I managed to do that, but I was really proud that I did. And then here are some photos of it being puffy painted. Really liked how it turned out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the boots. You can't have a secret identity without a mask. So let me show you how I made my mask. The way I made my mask was using a basic mask pattern that I found online and then sewed it together. After I made the mask, I needed to make the lenses. Because I have the McFarlane styled lenses ingrained in my brain, I could draw the lens template from memory. I actually prefer using my drawn template rather than tracing it from a comic panel, because I've done it before in the past and it didn't really turn out as good as I thought it would. So after that, I used fake leather for the black frames and then spray painted PC fan mesh white for the lens area on the inside. After making the lenses, I immediately glued them on the mask, which I advise not to do, but instead to put the web markings on the mask first and then gluing on the lenses, because I got lucky by knowing what to do and drawing the webs on and having enough space, but it's just better to do it that way. I also wanted to mention the spider logo, which is the same material I used for the lenses, but I wanted to use the leather and then layer it with this shiny material that I found on Amazon, which I really think would have looked nice on the suit. And it did. I finally used it, but during a convention it started peeling, so I just ripped it off entirely. It was nice, but it was short-lived. Thank you for watching the video to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm happy to finally have made this video showcase. It's been a long time making it. And if you're interested in seeing more of this kind of stuff, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as follow me on my Instagram, ravenclash, or raven_clash. And then let me know what you guys think of the cosplay, and if you'd like to see more kind of showcase videos like this for my other suits that you may not have seen yet on my YouTube channel. So go check my Instagram for that. And that's all for today, guys. I hope you have a good one. Until next time, peace.